Okay, so we're down to the last 3 of these, and we have uniform primer pockets, we've uniform flash holes, and now we've expanded the necks on all of these with this dedicated mandrel. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to trim them all to length. And I should have showed you that even running them on this mandrel, I might be able to with this last one. There's one here. So this measures about 2.607 right now. And we realize all we're doing is just running it over a mandrel. I mean, it's not like there's much. And so, see, we gained about half a thou just doing that. And so we are going to trim them all to length. And I should probably point out, even though we're not going to do it, because you realize this is a factory gun, but this step is the prior step before turning the necks. In other words, we're expanding these all up then so they fit on a turning mandrel. And if you remember, the turning mandrel is slightly smaller than the expander mandrel. And if we were going to turn necks, this step is mandatory. I like to do it anyways because I don't like a lot of neck tension on my bullets, especially when I'm trying to, get extreme accuracy. But that is part of the logic of doing this. And like I said, you have to do it if you're going to be turning necks. So we uniformed all the primer pockets, uniformed all the flash holes. We've run all these here. I might as well show you this again now because it'll have a mark on it where we were running them up to. And actually they were running right up to there. You can see that was running here, and you can see even a little bit of brass and stuff on there. Every now and then I polish these off, but as long as you got the lube on it, it's easier just to put it on the thing. So they were, this, again, you can see it was running in about that far. So obviously expanding the entire neck. So now what we're going to do again is, to save battery and stuff, we are going to stop the camera and I'm going to set up my trimming setup. Alright, so we'll see you again in a minute. Alright, so I was just going to go ahead and set up my trimmer to trim the length, but Don mentioned that he didn't know anything about neck turning. So you realize what we did is we took a mandrel that measured like 306.5, and we ran it inside this brass. And the reason that we did that was if the next step was going to be to turn the necks, these are all neck turning tools, right? If the next step was going to be to turn the necks, then the mandrel that's in here is slightly smaller than the mandrel, and this is a bad way to measure it, but you see it's about 3.055, so it's about a half to 1 thou smaller in diameter than the one that we ran in it. And so the idea is expand it up so that it will fit tightly, because you realize it springs back down, so that it'll fit tightly on the turner mandrel. And this is the cutter right here, right? And so the cutter is adjustable up and down. This is crude or rude, or this is gross, I guess. Not fine. And this is fine adjustment right here. So you can move the cutter up and down, and you can also move the mandrel in or out. And so that determines how much of the neck you turn. In other words, if you turn it the whole way right to the shoulder or up into the shoulder, and etc., that's an another reloading video. I mean, that's getting in deep, and I just don't want to do that tonight. But he wanted to know, so I thought I would show him. And this is Imperial Sizing Die Wax. You expand these up using the graphite on the mandrel, then put the sizing die wax on the turning mandrel. And you can turn these by hand with a hand wrench, which is a huge pain in the butt, or you can use drivers. These are drivers that end up, they go like this, and then they tighten down, and you run it in the drill or electric drill, or electric screwdriver or whatever. I use a regular 3/8 drill. And so you run them on there, and it turns, whatever predetermined amount that you want to turn off of the neck. You adjust that with the fine adjustment, not the coarse. That's the word I was thinking of, the coarse adjustment. And so anyways, but that's a whole nother video, but I just wanted to show him how that works. So now we're going to stop again and then we're going to set up our trimmer. And now we are trimming to length. And what I did here was, and I partly did it just because I'm showing Dawn what we're doing, but I measured, there's 54 cases here, I measured them all, and this one ended up being the short one, 2.6065, and this one ended up being the long one, so 2.610. So here's what you do. And by the way, this is a Wilson trimmer, and this whole setup you can get at Brownell's, right? Again, it's a Sinclair, but you can get it at Brownell's. And these are case holders, right? And they have the designation on them what they are, and I should have picked it out before we got started here. But, and I'm just really lucky, you probably can't see that, but this happens to be 264, 300, 338 Winchester, 7mm rim mag, new case. There's new case and fired case, and there's a groove on it. Put the case in from that end, and obviously I'm not going to want to use that one because it's not big enough. So see that sometimes you just have to fit it. What does this one say? Okay, so same thing, 264, 300, 338, blah 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 blah. This does not say fired. Sometimes they say fired case on them. This is the one I'm going to use because I want it to stick out a little bit. Okay, so obviously that was set up for a shorter cartridge last time I did this. So loosen the set screw and back it off. And if when you go to look at these, say you go to Brownell's and you're going to look at these, you're thinking about buying one, they make one with a micrometer end on it. The micrometer end is fine, but if you're going to be doing like short cartridges, say like 6BR, and then jumping like to 338 Lapua and back and forth, which is what I'm always doing, that micrometer will actually cause you more trouble than help. And this is not the best system in the world either, but it does work. My issue is that I always am doing, you know, like right now, today I might be doing 300 Winchester. I mean, tomorrow it might be 338 Lapua, and day after that it might be 6BR. So, all right, now the deal is I'm still not enough. Keep backing it away from the cutter. Okay, let me see where we're at now. Okay, so you see I can spin the cutter and it doesn't grab hold of it. So what I'm going to do is, here, I got to move up and I got to block your vision there just for a second. I'm going to, and I've thought about welding a T-handle on there. That would actually be, all right. So you see it grabbed hold of it. Now it's got it, right? So what we're going to do here is, let's measure this again. Okay. And we're only going to take, this is the shortest one in the entire batch of 54. So we're only going to take just a little wee bit off of this one. And there's is. That's probably all I'm going to take right there. So 2602 and a half. So move this around and lock this down. Don't smash it tight, because if you do, you'll crush those threads. That's part of why it's hard to adjust. All right, now I'm going to do this again. Okay, you heard it. Just barely cleaned it up. All right. So 2.602, and that's just all we're doing is trimming to the shortest one. Okay, within half a thou of the other one. You remember I did the other one twice, so it took off that last little wee burr. Again, and I'll live with half a thou. In fact, if they're all perfectly uniform within 1 thou, it's pretty good. Okay, so they're probably going to all come out at about 2602 and a half. All right, I'll do a couple more here on camera, then we'll shut the camera off and we'll go ahead and finish them up. I mean, this is a pretty good setup to keep coming within half a thou. Pretty good setup. I'll do one more and then we'll shut the camera down. Okay, and it's probably good I showed that one because see, we're half a thou off. So put it back in. Sometimes all that is just a little burr or something on there. Okay, there we are. All right, so we're going to shut the camera down and we'll be back as we finish up. You notice how much chips we got here. We've got quite a bit of chips, and really we're not cutting very much off of them. The good thing about this trimmer, this Wilson trimmer, is that it cuts them very square and very uniform. I've been measuring every one, which I mean I could go faster if I didn't, but they have not varied. I mean, look, 26025, and I mean they have not varied a half a thou throughout 54 cases. And I got to tell you, I've used about every type of case trimmer there is over the years. This one is definitely not the fastest, but I tell you what, it may be the most precise because it really, really does a good job. Sometimes, like this one, I may have to go back right here. There must be a little burr on it. Okay, so there we are, 26025. Okay, so we need to clean all this up. So we're going to shut the camera down one more time. We're going to vacuum all this up, put all this away, and then we'll go to our next step. Now this next step is probably going to be the first thing that deviates from what most people do. And I'm going to credit this to an old guy named Richard Franklin, because he taught me this, and since he taught me it, I'm telling you, my guns shoot better. All right, so normally after you trim a case, most people is going to use a deburring tool somewhat like this. You realize this is just in here so that it was power driven, but you know, that's like an RCBS standard deburr, right? That's the inside, that's the outside, right? And this is actually for VLD bullets, right? All right, so here's the deal. Seriously, look at my face. Don't use them. If you want really serious accuracy, you do not want these. All right, and here's the thing. I'm not saying that you couldn't get accuracy, but what I am saying is, from the moment Richard Franklin taught me this, and the moment I put all those types of deburring tools away, my accuracy increased across the board. Didn't matter whether it was one of my guns or a factory gun, whatever. The deal is that Wilson trimmer cut these as square as you can theoretically get them. In other words, the case head, the case mouth is square, right? So what we're going to do is we're not going to use a deburring tool and mess that up, because when you use the deburring tool, even if you use one that's in the Wilson trimmer, it still doesn't cut them uniform, because you realize we did not turn the necks. So these necks from one side to the other are less than perfect, let's put it that way. So one side's a little bit thicker, one side's a little bit thinner. So if you use a deburring tool, even if you hold it perfectly square, it's going to push it off to the side. So what we use is, this is a case driver and it's chucked up in the drill. Again, you can get these at Brownell's, Sinclair tools, but at Brownell's. All right, so take that, chuck that in there, and use a piece of steel wool. Okay, take the burr off the outside, which is pretty easy, and then push the steel wool inside the case. And you got to watch it doesn't grab it, because it will try to, and it'll rip it right out of your hand. The other thing to do too is watch this case mouth get sharp. Watch it doesn't give you a really nasty cut on the end of your thumb. So make sure you got steel wool between that and that. Now I'll do a couple, and then same thing. Once you get the idea, we'll shut the camera down and save battery. But that is the way that I deburr them. it gets down in there quite a bit. You see, it sucks the steel wool down inside the neck. And that's something else too. And it's not really appropriate for 300 Winchester, but let's say you're shooting 222, 6BR, 6 PPC. There can definitely be benefits, potential benefits from polishing the inside of the case neck. But again, that's over and above what we're dealing with here today. That's purely bench rest shooting. Yeah, you can't see in there, but see, it's actually polishing the inside also. I doubt you can see in there. Anyways, it makes them really nice. No burrs whatsoever. So I'll do this one more, and then we'll shut the camera off. We'll run to the end, show the final couple, and then we'll go to the next step. It's grabbing hold of it, but when it sucks it down in there like that, it really polishes it good. Okay, we're going to shut down and we'll come back whenever we get near the end. Taking these burrs off the neck, same deal. We'll finish these ones up, and then we'll shut the camera off, and we're going to clean this mess up. By the way, look how much steel wool was laying there. You pretty much need a new steel wool pad every time, and I know somebody's going to ask, so it doesn't really matter. I think I use 0 or even 00, but it doesn't matter. It's just a piece of steel wool, but you don't want to use like a number 3 steel wool or something like that. I mean, it's not real coarse, but it's not real fine either. But you need about 1 pad of it every time. Otherwise, you end up cutting your finger, like I said earlier. So we're going to finish these up, and as soon as we're done here, we'll go on to the next step, or we'll quit for tonight. I haven't decided. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. You can feel that trying to cut through the steel wool. Like, there's people, you know, we have customers come here to learn reloading, and I've seen guys get pretty nasty cuts right in the end of their thumb. I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on that, by the way. If you saw me shaking there, I mean, I'm forcing it down inside the case. All right, so there is 54. Again, to recap, we have now done uniform primer pockets, uniform flash holes, ran the expander mandrel in them, trimmed them to length, and now we steel wooled the necks inside and out. And so we're going to quit here and clean this all up, and then we'll go to the next step.